For pharma patents in this industry, there are plenty of issues, the patentabilities and obviousness and the doctrine of equivalence. We have our German colleagues who prepare a very nice case. Would you like to give this case and share to the panel?
Even I don't have slides, but first of all, I would like to jump back to the biosimilars. We had in Germany quite early in the 2000 years already litigation, Humira and Herceptin. I don't dare to go into details because the presiding judge in Düsseldorf, Professor Wang, is sitting here on the panel. But it was quite surprising that Germany was one of the first ones who had also discussions on validity of biosimilar. The first federal patent court decision was also in 2004, if I remember well. So we are, I would say, forerunners, at least in Europe. Coming back to the doctrine of equivalence, we had a case which is known in the Anglo-Saxon world as Actavis versus Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly sued a lot of companies in most of the European jurisdictions. So we have about 14 decisions so far in 40 different countries, and it's also known as Pemetrix. And the question is, in the end, is a potassium salt equivalent to a sodium salt? And the key question was kind of what the US colleagues know as prosecution history estoppel. Eli Lilly deleted from the specification during examination explicitly the potassium salt to get faster a patent. In the end, in the granted patent, sodium was definitely excluded, and the wording was limited to pemetrexate, and the cation is potassium, and is sodium. And the word is was inserted during examination proceedings. During litigation now, Eli Lilly claimed this was made to get faster patent, essentially. And in the end, half of European courts said, well, we have to consider the prosecution history estoppel, and the other half said, no, we cannot. And so we have now a situation where Europe is split apart in two different, say, decision-making opinions. The only other decision we have is from the Netherlands, where the potential infringer used an aminocation, which was not considered as being equivalent. But for the moment being, we don't have a unique or comprehensive doctrine of equivalence in Europe. The third point I would just briefly point out is, I have a slide. Did you receive it this morning? No? Oh, this is a pity. There is a tremendous, I would say, landmark decision in the European Patent Office, which is very important for generic companies. And they say, you would say, purity of the known compound. This is quite unconventional now. So far, until this year, you could not get a patent for a known compound which is just purer than before. And in the landmark decision this year, the EPO ruled that purity is a novelty conferring if the purity is not explicitly disclosed in prior art. So if you have a compound, say the ATI has 98% purity, and you file a patent with the same compound with 99% purity, this is novel. And this is a real landmark decision and changing the way how to draft patents, how to litigate patents, and to enforce patents in the end. Because then we come also to questions of the doctrine of equivalence. Is just the purity, does it fall under the same, is it equivalent, yes or no, because it more or less the same objective, the same result? Was it obvious or not? And what the EPO did in the end, even if it's a landslide, at least for generic companies, to draft new patents, the question is now shifted away from novelty to inventive step, known as obviousness in the US. So what you have to do now during drafting is to shift the way how you draft pharma patents when you go to known compounds. You just simply can say it's pure, then it's novel. That's fine. And now you have to discuss, is it inventive to get it purer? Was it obvious to try for a person skilled in the art to use a different purification process? And here you come really to huge questions. And the only guidance we have so far is the EPO said, well, if all the known purification processes in the art do not lead without any deviations to this purity degree, then it's not obvious, it's inventive. So what you have to do now in drafting is discussing purification methods and casting doubt on the prior art, saying, well, this purification never leads to this purity. And this means the entire drafting process on these kind of patents will have to change. And this is a dramatic shift, because then you also have a difference to the US. So in the end, when you have your application filed worldwide, you have to put a certain focus on Europe, where you can get easier now a patent for a known compound, which is just pure. And this is something we will have to see in the next years, whether the boards of appeal will continue with this case law. Personally, I believe yes, because now we have a unique and comprehensive view on novelty. The EPO has, as you all know, a sort of photographic concept of novelty. It has to be there, word by word. If you claim 98% and the prior answer is 97, then 98 is not 97, then it's novel. So for the first time, they apply the same principles on novelty for all technical fields. It may sound a little bit weird for chemists or pharmacists, but I personally believe this is reasonable, because it puts a coherent picture on novelty. But we have now the shift to inventive step. And here, in my opinion, we will see a lot of decisions in the future and later on in the national courts in Europe, how they will interpret this kind of case law. Especially in our strict rules in Germany, I would bet that they will not follow the EPO practice as we did in the past, which was, in my opinion, also correct. And these are more or less the 3 points I wanted to point out from the European point of view on pharma patents. Thank you.
What the issue is. Now, just to say that in the U.S., as part of the Hatch-Waxman Act, there is linkage between patents that are issued by the Patent Office and approvals that are issued by the FDA. And there is a dance that occurs through the Hatch-Waxman Act, and underlying U.S. policy believes that that's where the line is drawn to promote innovation, from the brand pharmaceutical companies and allowing lower cost alternatives to come on the market. You have to go through the FDA, and the FDA holds up your ability to launch until you clear the underlying patents that are listed in the Orange Book, and that system has been in place since 1984.
Say for Europe, I can say with one sentence, it's forbidden. It contravenes European regulatory law, and especially the law provisions. So there is, for the moment, maybe you know more than me, but for the moment we see no future for patent linkage in the European Union. Maybe in the UK when they have left the European Union.
Well, I actually have a question about that, how in practice it works, because in the US, what happens, we have a stay of approval, and once that stay is lifted, then a generic pharmaceutical is free to launch. But if the generic has not cleared the patents, they've considered to be launched at risk, and that gives rise to damages. So in Europe, are there more cases involving generic pharmaceuticals being subject to damages?
More cases. Well, I would say yes, because we have very strict rules also for generic companies to enter the market. We have an decision in Germany where even the